It's after 3 in the morning, April 26th, 2019, and I have a story to tell you. And this is something where, the minute I opened my eyes after this, I ran to my office to write down what I could remember before it was too late because details are usually going away. Although that helps me remember so that I don't need the notes later. But I find it interesting that I am sitting down to tell you this story and I go to get my notes that I had been keeping very carefully on my desk, hadn't moved them since writing them. There they were, and I go to get them and they're not there. Who knows? I might have moved them while cleaning. Who knows? But let me try to remember as best I can. I had a dream. And in the dream, I am I don't know if how many of you remember actually when you go to and you have the meeting pickups for the alien problem. I have always went to back roads areas, and in this case, even though I'm the one that drove us there, I was with two teenage girls, and I was thinking it was my car, but it wasn't my car, so So I guess the best way to translate that would be how when you rent a car, that's my car, but it's not your car. And they were there, and we were just hanging out on the road like you do. And and something said look up, so I look up, and against the night sky, it wasn't too dark a night, so we weren't that far out in the middle of nowhere. Further out you go, the less light noise there is. So we were probably in a more on the outskirts of a semi-populated area. But you could see the silhouettes of three ships in the sky, the bottoms of them. They were directly above us, and my heart just stopped. I mean, I looked at the shape of the ships, and I knew that these were not good ones. Like, I was like, these are not the nice ones. That's what I said to myself. These are the dangerous ones. And I thought of the human mutilations or whatever. So, like I have done many other times, I tried to urge the girls to run away. I was like, run away, run away. They're here. If we run, it'll create confusion. And, I'm always trying to get people to run away. In fact, I remember this other time there was this woman, she must have been 9 months pregnant, and I'm trying to get people to run. And they just wouldn't. It's like I'm the only one that tries to go. So the girls were like, whatever, and pretty much, how teenagers are when they're being rude. So I wasn't even there. So I just got in the car, and no, actually, I tried to physically run, and I was like, well, let them get these girls then, but I'm out of here. If these girls don't have any self-preservation, I'm actually going to make it this time. But I can't quite remember why I turned around. It was like I was running and I was going up the road, and somehow I turned around. Maybe it was programming or whatever, and I ended up back at the car. So fine, I'm going to start the car and drive away. And I get the girls in the car, and then there's this big man, like he was huge, and he came up from behind the car, which is where the main ship was, and to stop me from getting away. And the minute I saw him, I knew there was no getting away. And he was like a rather muscular guy, didn't really have any intelligence in his face, Caucasian. Either he shaved his head, or he was balding, or had really short hair. Wasn't, and he was wearing like a wife beater. At least I think it was a wife beater. This is where details get foggy. The shape of the ships. So they weren't like discs, and they weren't diamonds, and they weren't rectangles. They were kind of had long noses, but the angles on them were all triangular. So it was like they were made out of triangles. So they had the long nose, and then they had these triangle wing shapes that had the corners cut so that it was not a three-sided. And that's the best I can remember of that. So then we go to this place, and it's like this abandoned motel. And I have been there many, many times before in Dreamland. And I can't remember everything that was going on there. But I do remember being completely aware that I was, to use my word, awake. And like an idiot, I kept telling people that I was awake. Really, I've got to learn to keep my mouth shut. And there was, in the very beginning, they were going to put a tube down my throat through my mouth, and I said no. And they went to try again, and I said no. And so that person went away, and in came a woman with a jacket on, and she had a haircut similar to mine. She was a brunette, and she came to tell me that I was going to have a tube stuck down my throat. It was something about they were going to do something with reptile urine. Okay, I don't know if they were going to stick it down me, put reptile urine in my stomach, or if they wanted to extract what reptile urine, or if it was just part of the conversation, or it was the phrase they had. But when she came in, I said no. And this time I put a mental force behind the word no. And then and only then did they back off. And they say, well, all you had to do is tell us no. Haven't we heard that story before? All you got to do is tell us to stop. And then they don't. Whatever. I'm wandering around and people are doing different things in different rooms, and I can't remember everything. I remember there was like a hippie couple, and there was this colorful couple. There was a little boy who thought he was playing video games, and it was really interesting. Well, not interesting. I've seen this before 1,000 trillion times too. Is if they told you to go to sleep, you would just go to sleep. And near the end, I knew that we were getting ready to leave. And near the end, the adults, you know how like the workday is winding up and you just kind of end up talking about small talk. So the adults that were in charge of this kid, there were 3 adults. There were 2 adults that ended up kind of following me that I took to be also abductees. And then the person that was in charge of the little boy. But, you know, I have to say, because at one point, the quote-unquote abductees, the male, actually sat down and said, how do you remember things? How do you remember things? And I can't remember the advice I gave him. But that's more like somebody pretending to see if they can get information out of you. It's an old trick, and I fall for it. You learn not to say stuff after a while. But I took this guy at face value like an idiot. But anyway... So the little kid's listening to the adults, and they're starting to talk about adult matters. And so I turned to the kid and I said, this dream is only for adults, so you need to go to sleep now. And the boy just went right to sleep. We're leaving, and we're leaving the motel, and we're walking out, and we're gonna be picked up in like the front area where people used to park or whatever. And then we got in a shuttle, and I am studying the terrain like there is no tomorrow. I'm reading billboards. Yes, I could read in this dream. You're not supposed to be able to read in your dreams, but I could read in this dream, and I can't remember a damn thing that I read. But I remember laughing because some of them were like parodies. Some of the billboard signs were parodies of things that we know commonplace. And there was the name of the hotel, and I saw that. And I can't remember what it was. And then we got to where they're going to pick us up. And it was kind of almost like an abandoned rest stop area. And I remember looking around and looking at the terrain. And it was like mostly desert or desertish. And in the area we were being picked up, there was an old building with pale walls. And it was almost like a man-made crater. It went down and there was like this earth wall. And I could see the mountains in the distance beyond the crater wall, but I couldn't see if there was grass or whatever. But I already had a sense of what the ground was like. And then I noticed that there was a big map. You know those maps at the rest stop areas? You are here. Here is a map of the state. Well, there was that. And so I went up to it, and I saw that we were in New Mexico. That's what it was, New Mexico. And so I'm looking, and on the map, I saw, I couldn't remember if it was Highway 60 or Highway 66, but I was like, we're there. There was a woman there saying something to me about how I wouldn't remember nothing. And I was like, I will remember. I will remember. And so when I got out of bed, the very first thing I did was run to my computer, get a pen and paper, because I'm a little old-fashioned that way, handwrite what I could remember down. And then I got on the internet to see if New Mexico did indeed have the roads that I saw. I have never been in New Mexico. I've never thought about traveling through New Mexico. Maybe someday when I am like loaded with cash, but currently not so much. But I have to tell you, right there on the map was Highway 60. Not 66. Not Route 66. I have to point this out. It is not Route 66. It was Highway 60. Actually, it wasn't even a highway. It was a teeny weeny road that goes from like one city in New Mexico to another, and that was it. It's not, and nothing long or extravagant. Doesn't go outside of the state. And another thing I noticed as I went and I was like, okay, let me try to find photos off this highway. And sure enough, what photos I could find, because it turns out that it's a tourist trip. People take it for tourism. And so somebody chronicled it and talked about where the gas stations were and everything. The terrain matched perfectly. The mountains in the background matched perfectly. Now, I don't know if I was off of Route 60. I don't know if I was off of Route 60. I just know that I saw it on the map of New Mexico where I was located, that state. Kind of bizarre, this dream. There are a couple of things that I know about me, though. After a pickup, it takes my brain 2 days, give or take, to process things, and then I'll have a dream about it, or I'll have a dream of the information. I do know that I have dreamt about this location many times through my entire life. I know I've never been to New Mexico. I have been to Mexico, but not New Mexico. No, it wasn't by driving. I flew out of Florida. And I wasn't sleeping during that period of time that this happened, and that's always a sign that. But I can't figure out if it's a sign of I'm about to be picked up and I'm waiting on it, or I have been picked up and the stress has me where I can't sleep. I do know that tonight, as I was putting the cat out, I thought I saw something tall, like that man standing at my door, and I ended up going into the bedroom and sitting for a little minute in a panic attack. So all of the physical signs with me are that something happened, but I can only account that it was a dream that just happened to show me a map that I could read when I've never, when you're not supposed to be able to read in dreams, with a highway that I never knew existed before I looked it up. Just food for thought.